Okay, so are you ready for this deep dive?
Always up for a deep dive, especially this one.
This one's really something else.
Yeah, what a story.
We're diving into Sister Loana Martínez's life story. Remember her?
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
From the Footsteps of My Life podcast.
Incredible.
You wanted to see how her experiences showed how the light of the world church impacts people's lives.
Exactly. It's fascinating how faith and finding where you belong kind of get mixed up with what's happening in your life.
Totally. And her story.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It really is.
Like, she was searching for something right from the beginning.
From a young age.
She says she was baptized in like Catholic Apostolic Baptist churches, even spent time with Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons.
Wow.
And all that before she was even 16.
Seriously, that's like every Sunday in new church.
Right. Makes you wonder what she was looking for in all those different places.
It's the big question, isn't it? And you know what I find really interesting?
What's that?
She's not just saying she wanted something more. You know how people do. She's specific about it.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted peace and love, the things she didn't have at home because it was so chaotic.
Yeah, her dad's struggling the arguments all the time.
Right.
She talked about how there was no warmth there. So she wanted peace. She needed to get away from all that chaos.
It adds a whole other dimension to her searching for a faith.
Totally. It wasn't just about God or religion. It was about finding somewhere safe.
Exactly. For a lot of people, finding a church or group like that isn't really about all the religious stuff.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's about needing other people to connect with, to belong somewhere, and to feel safe emotionally, especially when things are tough. Like a shelter.
It's like looking for that one thing that'll make you feel whole.
Yeah.
So with Loana, was it just her husband that led her to the Light of the World Church? Or was there already something inside her, even if she didn't know it, that was already looking for that deep feeling of belonging and peace?
Now that is a question, and it makes you think about how all those experiences we have, even the ones we forget, can shape who we are now and who we become later.
It's like our past is always with us, in a way.
I think so, even when we don't realize it.
So we've got Loana, still a teenager, right?
Still so young.
Still trying to find that place where she belongs.
Right.
And that's when she meets her future husband.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, he was raised in the Light of the World Church.
Okay.
He'd even left and come back once before.
It happens.
But at this point in their lives, let's just say he wasn't exactly rushing back to church.
Relationships can really change how we see faith, can't they?
I think so.
It's like this back and forth, one person's searching, the other one's holding back.
It's tricky, isn't it?
It's complicated trying to figure out faith when you're in a relationship.
It's definitely a balancing act.
You could say that again.
But Loana being Loana, she's curious.
Always asking questions.
She keeps asking him about the church.
Get it?
And finally, she gets to see it for herself.
It's about time.
But get this, it's actually her future father-in-law who takes her.
Oh, wow. Talk about jumping in the deep end.
Right.
You've got to be pretty open-minded to just walk into a church you've never been to before.
Especially one like the Light of the World Church. Totally different from what she was used to.
So what'd she think?
She talks about how different it felt. Like the men and women sitting separately during the services.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do that.
She'd never seen anything like it.
It can be a little strange at first if you're not used to it. But it makes you think, doesn't it?
About
how brave you have to be to try something new, even when deep down you feel like it's right.
Yeah, you have to ignore all those ideas you had before and just be there in the moment.
Exactly.
It's like she says later, you don't lose anything by just listening and watching.
She's got a point.
And it's so true, especially with something as personal as faith.
Nobody wants to be pushed into it.
It's scary to step outside your comfort zone, but sometimes the best things happen when you do.
Sometimes the things you least expect turn out to be exactly what you needed.
But even though Loana felt that peace when she went to the church for the first time,
Yeah.
it wasn't all easy from there.
Oh, there's always more to the story.
Her husband wasn't sure about the church yet, and she was nervous to go back by herself.
Makes sense.
She was worried about being judged.
That's such a common fear, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling of not fitting. You know.
Don't belong.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way no matter who they are or what they believe.
It's human nature to want to be accepted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what gets me is that even with that fear, Loana keeps going back.
She was drawn to it, wasn't she?
She really was.
It wasn't just about fitting in, though.
Yeah.
There was something more, there's something deeper that made her want to keep exploring.
So last we heard, Loana's feeling this pull toward the Light of the World Church.
Can't deny that feeling.
But there's this big obstacle.
I wonder what.
Her husband. He's not so sure about it all.
There it is. It's like that all the time, though, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Your heart's telling you one thing,
Yeah.
but then there's everything else pulling you in another direction.
Especially someone you love, you got to think about them too.
Especially when it's your husband or wife, it's a big deal.
Huge. And that's what happens with Loana.
Oh, really?
She gets baptized when she's 16.
16, wow.
But him? Not so much.
You figured as much.
He actually leaves the church.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And they even separate for a while.
That's tough. That's when a lot of people would just walk away.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, you figure it's a sign or something.
Right. But Loana's experience, it's like it shows how personal faith really is.
How so?
She could have left. It would have been easy.
Sure.
But her connection to the church it went deeper than just her husband.
Yeah, it's her own thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shows how strong her beliefs were. You know, it was her journey to make.
And don't forget, this is also where we start to see those ideas of forgiveness and making up.
Yeah.
Which are super important in the light of the world church.
She talks about how tough those years were being without her husband.
That's rough.
But she found strength in her faith.
That's what it's all about, right?
She even says she would sneak out to pray early in the morning.
While everyone else was sleeping.
Yep. While her husband and kids were still asleep.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
That takes dedication.
Serious dedication.
Yeah.
It makes you think about those little things we do when things are tough.
Those things that keep us going.
Exactly. Those things that give us hope.
Speaking of hope,
Oh, yeah.
Loana's story, it takes another turn.
It sure does.
She ends up being the one encouraging her husband to try church again.
With their kids this time.
The whole family.
It shows how strong her faith was and how leading by example can really make a difference.
She wasn't pushing him or anything, just
Yeah.
living her truth. And that's powerful.
So powerful.
Yeah.
And guess what?
What?
Not only does her husband come back to church,
No way.
their kids do too.
Wow. A full family affair.
The whole gang's back together.
Yeah.
And Loana talks about how believing the same things brought them closer as a family.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
It really is.
Having that shared faith, it's like a foundation for a family.
Helps you get through the tough times, the good times, everything.
Celebrates the good times.
Exactly.
And gives you strength for the bad.
She really saw that connection between what they learned at church, the support they got from the community,
Yeah.
and how successful her children became.
Wow, that's incredible.
It really became their guiding light.
I love that.
But here's the thing, Loana, she keeps it real
Oh, she's the best.
about how she felt when her husband came back to church.
What do you mean?
It wasn't all sunshine and roses right away.
No.
She was happy, of course,
Of course.
but she knew it wasn't going to be easy.
It's never easy, is it? Relationships take work.
She knew it was going to be work for both of them.
And they were up for it.
They were all NDM. And eventually, they make a big decision.
What's that?
They decide to join the labor.
Now, for those who don't know about the Light of the World Church,
Pretty big deal.
it's a huge commitment.
That
You're basically devoting your life to the church's mission.
sometimes you even have to move.
It's a big life change.
Loana's description of how it happened is just perfect.
Oh, tell me.
They're at a service, right?
Okay.
And they're asking for volunteers.
For the labor.
Yep. And Loana, she looks over,
Yeah?
and there he is, her husband, front and center, ready to serve.
No way. I get chills every time I hear that part.
It's those moments you never see coming that change everything.
Life is funny that way, isn't it? You never know what's going to happen.
Never a straight line from A to B,
Twists and turns everywhere you look.
but it all leads somewhere.
It really does. Loana's story, it's got its ups and downs, its moments of doubt.
But through it all, her faith stays strong.
It's a story about the human spirit, isn't it?
Absolutely.
No.
The need to search, to grow, to find your people.
To find that peace and belonging we all crave.
And sometimes you find it in the most unexpected places.
Just like Loana did.
Exactly. Her story, it makes you think about what's really important
Faith, family, finding your purpose.
and how strong we can be even when things are tough.
We all have that strength inside us.
Loana's story on the Footsteps of My Life podcast.
Don't miss it.
It's a powerful reminder of the power of faith and the resilience of the human spirit.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
This has been an AI-generated episode review of the Light from the Inside podcast. God pay you for your support of this testimonial project.